Good morning, wrestling fans. Today is June 3rd, 2023. Lance Brock, your host here. And thank you for tuning in to this morning's episode of GMWF. Hope everyone is having a great Saturday morning so far and getting ready to start off this weekend. Just want to talk about something real quick. Just before I left, the podcast I was listening to was yesterday's episode of Talk is Jericho. And this Friday episode, Chris has on the producers from Dark Side of the Ring, talking about this new season that has just started this past Tuesday night. They discuss the first episode, the season premiere, Chris and Tammy, that focused on Chris Candido and Tammy Lynn Sitch, which I talked about on 360 Wrestling Fanatic the other night, which was a pretty good episode. Now, I know they're probably not listening to this podcast right now, but it would be great if they would want to come on 360 Wrestling Fanatic to discuss the season with me. But like I said, I'm sure they won't hear this episode. And they also talk about the other episodes that are coming up this season, which I haven't heard the whole episode yet, but they talk about the Marty Jannetty one that will air this season, and also Magnum TA, which is one that seems like it would be an interesting episode of Dark Side to watch. And his career, he was I would say probably his prime, maybe, well, not really his prime, because he didn't really get a chance to get into his prime before, unfortunately, his career ended. But what I'm trying to say is he was, when I was still pretty young, but I have gone back and watched matches of his and followed his career, read about him, and people always say that he was set to defeat Ric Flair for the NWA World title, but then unfortunately he had that terrible car accident that ended his career. And that'll definitely be a good episode to watch. And also, like I just mentioned, the Marty Jannetty one, which I'm sure might be pretty controversial with some of the things Marty Jannetty has said and done. And the last few years anyway, I remember growing up a big fan of the Rockers, him and Shawn Michaels. And the producers talk about on Talk is Jericho about he did have opportunities and chances in his career, but it was more so kind of his own fault that it didn't work out. And I'm sure they'll talk more about that in his episode. Also, another show that has been talked about quite a bit in the last almost 23 years ago is Bash at the Beach 2000. The producers are Dark Side said that is one topic that has actually been requested by viewers that they talk about and do a show on. So I'm sure that'll be pretty interesting. I don't know if they will actually be able to have Hulk Hogan on there to be interviewed for it. Jeff Jarrett, not sure, but I'm sure Vince Russo will probably be on there. He has done interviews in the past with them for different episodes, so wouldn't be surprised at all to see Vince Russo on there. And another one, Booker T, I'm sure he's not going to be on there. With his relationship with WWE, he probably won't be. And just like, to go back to it once again, the Marty Jannetty episode, I'm sure Shawn Michaels, well actually they did say Shawn Michaels was not interviewed, but that's not a surprise. Which, yes, Shawn Michaels is a big part of Marty Jannetty's career when they were the Rockers, but as I explained on TIJ, was that a lot of this is more focused on after the Rockers broke up. So that's why Chris Jericho and also other episodes of Dark Side of the Ring that do sound pretty good. And I hope for the rest of the season on 360 Wrestling Fanatic to talk about each episode after they air. So hopefully we'll keep that up for the rest of the season. So stay tuned to 360 Wrestling Fanatic for that. And before I wrap up here this morning, just want to talk a little bit more about SmackDown, which I did a recap of SmackDown and Rampage last night on 360 Wrestling Fanatic. And the closing segment of the show, which was the 1,000 days celebration for Roman Reigns as WWE Undisputed Universal Champion. I thought it was great. I don't know about anyone else, but I thought everyone involved in this segment was great, even though Paul Heyman didn't really say anything. His facial expressions, though, as he was standing over there and was listening to what everyone else was saying, was great. That was the part he had in that, and he played it well. And Roman Reigns was great. The Usos did a great job. Jimmy, Jay, they were fantastic. And even Solo, speaking last night, he didn't say much, but normally Solo Sikoa is the silent, strong enforcer of the bloodline. And he doesn't really need to talk that much, but he spoke, and it looked like he was going to side with his brothers Jimmy and Jay, the Usos. And then Jay tried to play peacemaker once again, and Jimmy, he listened to his brother, tried to give Roman another chance. Him and Roman hug in the middle of the ring, and then Roman says into the microphone, "No." And then there's a little bit of a pause there between them, and then Solo Sikoa hits Jimmy Uso with the Samoan spike. And Roman, the wise man, and Solo all leave together. And Paul Heyman asks Roman Reigns, "What about Jay?" I don't think I said this on the podcast last night, But Roman says he'll do what he always does and fall in line. So that ended last night, leaving it kind of a cliffhanger with the question being, who is Jey Uso going to side with? Will it be him siding with his brother Jimmy or the rest of the bloodline? I think they're probably going to have him side with Jimmy Uso on this one, and then either Money in the Bank or SummerSlam, but I'd more so say probably Money in the Bank, because I'd say more likely SummerSlam here in Detroit, Roman will be defending the Undisputed Championship, the newly designed championship, I should say, and they'll probably be on SummerSlam, but I wouldn't be surprised. Money in the Bank London, we see that tag match, and then also with the two Money in the Bank ladder matches, the men's and the women's. So that's all for this Saturday morning episode of GMWF. Thank you for everyone tuning in. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, or maybe if you can get a hold of the Dark Side of the Ring producers and ask them to come on 360 Wrestling Fanatic, tell them to email me at 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. I doubt that will happen, but once again, thank you for tuning in, and as always, I'll be back tomorrow for the Sunday morning episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. But until tomorrow morning, have a great pro wrestling day.